Hey everybody, we got a minute or two before the show starts, so I just wanted to mention the sponsors who are helping chip in on the show. I'm pretty careful about taking sponsors. I only take things that I believe in and people I believe in, or people that are like-minded.
Way out where the cattails sway, in the muck where most won't stay, there's a shadow moving through the reeds. That ain't luck, that's a hunting beast. Got swamp mud up to his knees, tracks big bucks like it's a breeze. Got old raccoons eating from his hands. He's part wild, part myth, oh man. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers of critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glass into last light stalks, he's a ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. Spent a weekend with Pat and Pat. They said this summer hunt stock's where it's at. He's coming down, so y'all better feast. It's showtime now for the hunting beast. A public land preacher with a swamp-stained creed. He don't need luck, just a wind and a lead. With a bow in hand and fire in his eye, he'll track that buck till the day he dies. He's seen things deep in the brush and fog, where boots get swallowed by the bog. And if you doubt what legends mean, he's the reason deer don't sleep in them cedars green. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers to critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glass into last light stalks, he's a ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. Spend a weekend with Pat and Pat. They said this summer hunt stock's where it's at. He's coming down, so y'all better feast. It's showtime now for the hunting beast. He don't need no tree stand high. He'll crawl through briars low and slide. He reads the wind, he knows the signs, and he'll be dragging horns come closing time. He walks on water in the cattail fog, swamp-born bloodhound, a white-tailed dog. From backwoods bucks to legends and crease, there's no one hunts like the hunting beast. Yeah, hunt stock's calling, y'all bring your best, but Dan's already scooted the rest. So raise a beer and beat your chest. This song's for the king of the buck hunt quest.
What we got going on? You haven't seen this yet, Nikki? This song is classic.
Way out where the cattails sway,
It's a
in the
banger.
mud where most won't stay, there's a shadow moving through the reeds. That ain't luck, that's a hunting beast. Got some mud up to his knees, tracks big bugs like it's a breeze.
The world would be a better place if everybody wore a beast hoodie. There probably wouldn't even be any more shootings or anything. Everybody would just be cool. It's a little over my boots. If you ever use these Lathrop & Son boots, they're a very sad boot until you get them muddy. That's a happy boot. Should have heated that up and put it in a coffee cup.
That's why they call him. That's why they call him. That's why they call him the Beast.
welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Beast Report. I am your host, Scott Biskobing, and I got to tell you what, outside of that intro song, which was a banger, as you might have heard me say in the background in that video, the thunder tonight in our countdown is quite fitting because here in southeast Wisconsin, where I'm at and where Dan's at, we've got some storms. We got some storms in this area. I just had tornado sirens go off about 35, 40 minutes ago. I think Dan probably had the same. Speaking of Dan, let's go ahead and bring him on and find out. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
Oh, I'm alive.
You're alive. So what's the storm situation like down by you?
It's calm now. I mean, some really crazy crap blew through a little while ago, but it just missed my place.
Yeah. Did you guys have sirens down by you too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're predicting baseball-size hail.
Mm-hmm.
And we could fit one vehicle inside the building, so I put Carol's in there. I put mine out in the... I put the Toyota right out in the middle of the yard where it couldn't be missed.
Speaking of the Toyota, I hear good things.
Yeah, it's running great.
It's fixed. Everything's figured out. And I know people are going to ask, so what was the final verdict on the Toyota?
Well, if you go back to when it first went out, right, we determined that there was first of all, they wouldn't do anything. They said it ran great and made me go home, right? So I took it to a little garage, and they looked at it and couldn't figure it out. So then I went to a guy at work who's a Toyota tech who did some research and said, there's one thing that would cause this, and there's a little flipper switch inside of your manifold cover. I mean, not, what do they call that? The top half of the engine thing. He goes, this little plastic flipper clip in there, if that's broke, and that model they broke a lot. He said after about 100,000 miles and had to be replaced. And so I called the garage and I had them take off this little panel and look in there, and sure enough, that flipper was broke. So they replaced it, but in order to replace it, Toyota made me buy the whole head, right, over $1,000, and then the cost to put it on too. So I did that, put it on, and it ran great for about 3 weeks, maybe, and it started missing and going into limp mode again constantly, but now it was a different cylinder.
Okay.
And I went to the garage. Garage had like a 4-week lead time, so I didn't do anything with them, and I messed around. And the guy at work said he'd look at it, the tech guy. But I couldn't really drop it off because my other vehicle wasn't working. Ignition was broke on the chick car. So I took the chick car in and I drove the thing and just resetting it constantly every time it would blow out, which was very annoying. Very annoying that Toyota wouldn't even, help me when I said, do you have any competent dealerships that have people that could work on this? And they're like, well, you'll just have to look around. Some of them are, some of them aren't. I didn't like that answer.
Yeah, that's...
The garage in town that told me they had a 4-week lead time told me that I should probably take it to Toyota because they have special tools, special parts, special ways of doing this. He said, but do not take it to the one by your house. They're horrible. So I mean, like, where do you take it? I mean, when everybody's telling you that all these dealers are horrible. So,
right.
Like the tech at work told me that the reason he's not a Toyota tech no more is that they lowered the wages of the techs. They only paid them for the repairs they did, like an hourly rate. So they would assume like if you change that head like I had changed, right? If it's a 2-hour job, and they get, let's say, $25 an hour, they'll get $50. If it takes them 3 hours, they get $50. It takes them an hour, they get $50. But it's a 2-hour job. It's quoted to do in 2 hours, right? And he said, you'd get an older truck, and there'd be no compensation for that. You break off 2 bolts, and you spend 2 days taking these damn bolts out, you get $50. That's the quoted price. And then you had to buy your own tools, and every year they put on a new model, and you'd have to buy new tools to fit that model, and all that crap. And he said, then they raised their rate to $200 an hour, and they're still making $20 to $25 an hour. So he quit. So he came to work for us, and he told me that all the good techs there quit. He says now they got all these kids in there that don't know what they're doing, and they're disgruntled because they're not getting a full week's pay. And if no jobs come in, they don't get paid. Is what he told me. Maybe
Sure.
I'm off a little bit there, but anywho, so I couldn't take it there. So eventually, I got to take it back to this dude, and it was kind of irritating because I don't have like a reader. I know you can buy one for cheap to see what your engine light is, but I had some people read it for me, and it was like always cylinder 2, and before it was cylinder 3 misfires, and then the spark plug was melted in half when we checked on the cylinder 6, but cylinder 6 never misfired. So it was kind of irritating. But when I took it to this guy, he said that he test drove it and put it to the floor so it would misfire and blow into limp mode. And he says immediately by the way it misfired, he could tell it was electrical. So he drove it back to the shop, or to his house, and looked at it, and he said that he pulled out the number 2 coil pack, replaced it with number 1, and then number 1 blew out. So he replaced it with 3, and then number 3 blew out. So he replaced the coil pack, and he said it ran great. So all it was a coil pack for under $100.
Yeah.
And he also replaced something else he saw bad in there, so it came up to $113. And I tried to give him a whole bunch of extra money just for helping me, but he wouldn't take it.
Sure.
That's it.
Wow.
And Toyota couldn't find it, and I do believe, honestly, that was part of the issue in the beginning. And I think that when they had it apart, they put the coil from 2 back in 3. So that's what threw me off, is it was a different coil.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd have replaced the coil pack for the $100. You know what I mean? But I think they switched coil packs or whatever. But it is running.
But that's what came up when you were in Iowa, right? I mean, wasn't that the thought at that time?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we did play with that. We couldn't find it to be a coil pack, but I didn't have the gear to really test it. We trusted that Toyota looked at that, but they didn't. They didn't look at anything. But I think the garage, when I came back here, should have. And they did switch some stuff around. They said they couldn't find it, and all the coil packs looked good to them. They did say one of them looked bad, and they replaced that one, but it made no difference. And it wasn't the number 3; it was the number 1 that they replaced.
Yeah. Wow. Well, like we talked about the other day, the good news is it's taken care of, and it was a relatively cheap fix.
Yeah, we got new issues. Today, the other day, we had that big storm that blew through.
Yeah.
Morning, Carol says that you better go outside and look at the roof. Look at the roof, and half the shingles are missing on the one side.
Oh, really?
So, up there, and it didn't look real bad, but my brother is a contractor, and I sold him some stuff and told him he doesn't have to pay me if he helps me with the roof. So he says, yeah. So anywho, yesterday I knew it was going to storm, so I called him up, and he said, well, I can't come over for 2 weeks. My equipment's up north or some crap, right?
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'll just go up there and patch it. So I go up there to patch it, and there's a giant hole through my roof.
What was that from?
Storm blew off some shingles, and apparently it was shingled over a hole in the roof by the previous owner, and there was like a like cardboard under the shingles.
Jeez.
If I would have stepped there, I would have went right through.
Yeah.
But
How big of
so
a hole?
we got to like pretty much just rip the whole freaking roof off. So I've always got issues. You know me.
So
They
that's the
follow-
chaos that you were dealing with today.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was up there bitching, and then I tarred everything, and I don't know how, but I come down out of that, and Carol goes, look at your arm, and my whole arm was tar. I don't have no idea how it got on there, and it was like hardened in there. I must have leaned against something or whatever, and I don't belong with tools. I belong in the woods.
Yeah, clearly. Wow. Well, so everything's taken care of though now? Should
Yeah.
be good for the storms coming through tonight?
Yeah.
That's good.
So what did everybody think about that ad at the beginning? I just kind of felt like watching it today. It was like a little too long. Like maybe I need to shorten it out.
I think it was good. I think it's a good introduction into the show, and
I mean, it's just playing before the show, but I mean, people that tune in afterwards or something, they're gonna have to sit through that.
there's also fast forward though. I mean, whether it be on Spotify or if
Okay.
yeah, I honestly wouldn't worry about it. But let's hear from you guys. What did you guys think? Is that something you guys enjoyed? So I added music to an episode. What was it, last week here, or the week before prior, and everybody liked it. And then we instantly got dinged by YouTube for copyright issues, which it's free and free media, different things that the software provides. And it's, for whatever reason, it doesn't coincide with YouTube, or YouTube isn't aware of it. I talked with the software company. They're like, if you have any issues with YouTube, you can appeal that. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to sit there and do this week after week, or have Dan do it week after week after the show when they ding us and want to take away monetization. We're just not going to do that.
They don't just ding you anyways. There's got to be something in there that causes them to ding you, that they put in there to begin with. It's just ridiculous. I just don't use the music.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And I just felt like it was something that was missing, and I think this was perfect. It's something you and I have actually talked about for a while. Like, let's maybe put that music video in the beginning. This was a perfect opportunity to put in some ads and kind of cover all of our bases in one here. But before we go any further here, just a little shout out here to John Gutierrez. I'm sorry, my eyes are a little blurry here. John Gutierrez donates $199.99 and says coils.
Paid for my coils.
Paid for your coils.
Appreciate that, John.
That's
Wow.
that's pretty fantastic. So
Yeah, that is.
thank you for that. So let's see, what are we getting here? Wisconsin bow
Who
hunter.
actually care, eh?
What's that?
There's people out there that actually care.
There are.
Every now and then, you go, like I put stuff up online or whatever. You put a lot of work into doing a story for people and stuff that you feel like is motivational or something. And then you get these hate comments, and they get into your head a little bit. Or like the people watching. Maybe it's not that they do a story like I do, but maybe they put up a picture of their buck or something, and they get all these hate comments. Mm-hmm. You really, it can get to a point where that's all you see. But when guys like John do something like he just did, or even somebody sends you a special note. I mean, it doesn't have to be money, but just like a PM about how you motivated them or something. That stuff really throws off that negativity that you get into just seeing constantly.
Right. That's a really good point, Dan. We can talk about how it doesn't bother us. I mean, and I'm talking, things that I've experienced, things that you maybe have or others. But at the end of the day, you see the stuff, and you let it kind of roll off your shoulders, kind of move past it. But at the same time, it does affect you. I mean, we're all human beings, and when there's negativity, like, it's hard not to feel it at least a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up in a time where your social media was the people around you. You know what I mean? And if somebody mouthed off, they better have the balls to back it up because you go punch them in the nose.
Yeah, there's consequences for actions.
You can't punch a guy in the nose that's hiding in his mom's basement. So he keeps doing it, keeps building on it.
Yeah. No, we always appreciate the positive feedback, and constructive criticism is a good thing as well. But when it's people taking shots or making things personal and for no reason whatsoever, that can grate on a person and affect somebody's mentality a little bit. But at the end of the day, I know you have thick skin, I have thick skin. For the most part, we're just going to brush that off because by and far, we get a lot of positivity from this community that you've created throughout the years. Between
I'm a big fan of freedom of speech, right?
Oh
But
yeah,
I'm not a fan of disrespect.
Right.
If you disrespect me on my page or on my profile or on our podcast, you're just deleted, just gone, blocked.
right.
And that's not blocking somebody's right to say something. If they have something to criticize, I'm all for that. I mean, I want to see if somebody sees that I'm doing something they don't like. You know what I mean? But if it's just negative, like attacks, like name calling, things like that, that could just go. And if everybody did that, you'd weed that right out. It'd be gone. People ignore it, or or some people even feed on it and laugh with. And if it's actually name calling and stuff, you should just delete those people, just block them, ban them until they got no place to go. And that's the punch in that's missing, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
When they got no place to go, maybe they'll interact.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, or they'll just create another profile. I mean, there's just people that just thrive off of
Then they'll
being
just
sucky
ban
people. Right. So
you make a good point, because you find out, like, when we get a bad person like on the site, you find out when you ban them back as a different name. It's like, if they hate you so much, why do they keep coming back? And we've even had some people that we found that had like 3 different profiles, and they come on as 3 different people at once.
yeah. Who has time for that in their life? Like to create that much negativity to it's dumbfounding to me, honestly, that people have that kind of time and want to put that sort of energy into something. Put your energy towards positivity. Go out and do something with your life. Get out in the woods, get out in the marsh, get in the swamp, do something, man. Like, to sit here and bash. I mean, I get it. Like, you're always going to get the anti-hunters and the PETA type people from time to time that will find things and they're going to chime in. But if you're a fellow hunter or an outdoors person, whether you're hunting, fishing, whatever it is, and you're consuming yourself with negativity and spewing negativity on other people's podcasts or their Facebook posts, bashing them for the size of the deer they killed or the way they hunt, the weapon they use. I mean, come on, get a life. Grow up.
Speaking of which, we're probably giving them too much time right now.
Probably, right. Yeah, they're like, yeah.
Some hunting questions. Does anybody ask any questions yet?
No, everybody's just kind of agreeing with us right now. T-Dogs here says jealousy gets you nowhere. You're absolutely correct. Steve said, right on, Scott, life is too short. Life is too short. Life is far too short to consume yourself with bad thoughts, negativity, and just being a shitty person, if I will. But yeah, if you guys have questions for us tonight, feel free to chime in. This is kind of, we titled this as Dealer's Choice. And when we say dealer, you guys are the dealers. If you guys want to talk about Dan's latest bear hunting scouting video that he just posted, I want to talk a little bear hunting. I know we're just getting started here. In fact, tomorrow here in Wisconsin is the start of season A here for Wisconsin turkey. And I know some of the other states around us have just started. We just had youth season here in Wisconsin. So you want to talk a little turkey hunting, if you want to hear deer hunting tactics, some tips, or you have some questions for Dan, we're kind of letting you guys run with us here a little bit tonight. I know we do that, we take your questions frequently throughout the episodes, but this one's kind of up to you guys here. If you have something you want to talk about or a question for Dan, we'll try to answer as many of those as possible. Does that sound good to you, Dan?
Yeah. So I went scouting for bears over the weekend. Went up to Black River Falls, And
With
one of
Eric,
the,
right?
what's that?
With Eric.
Yes, yes. One of the things that surprised me was the amount of bear pressure I found. It's been a while since I've scouted spots up there for bears. I had originally, if you go back, I don't know, what is it, like 10 years now? Probably more than that when I set them up. But I went up there, scouted real heavy, mapped out some spots, and I used to run bear baits all the way from Millston at Highway O all the way to Highway 10 in Clark County, which is quite a huge section. And I think we originally had like 15 baits, and it would take me a whole day to run all the baits. And it was a lot of work, and we got a lot of bears rolling and stuff. But the trouble was, I couldn't keep them baited during the week, and it was expensive too. I would start the new baits out in April, as soon as it was legal to bait them. So I wanted to go up there and look at some of those old areas that were really good, the very best spots, and kind of set those up for Jeff, the bear guide, and so he'd have some good spots to take people. And we went up there and we scouted. I think we found about 4 really good spots. One of them we left where it originally was, and that's the spot where I had one of the biggest bears I ever had coming in, and I almost shot the thing. I was there with Tyler Witt. He was in the tree filming for me, and I hit a limb, and the arrow deflected. But I was pretty surprised that when I set those up, it didn't seem like very many people knew how to bear hunt in that area. Like, I shouldn't say that. They didn't set up like I set up, right? And now I found that way different. I was going out to points and stuff and finding, remote areas way back and finding right exactly on the map where I wanted to put a bear bait because of the way bears travel swamps. Like where there'd be a funnel for them coming out in a bedding area, there would be an old setup there. Most of them weren't being used anymore. And that's probably because it's not going to be an outfitter, because outfitters are not going to take the bait out like that. Jeff is the exception. Outfitters are out there mostly to make money, so they put the baits within a close distance to a road or where they can access them easy, so that they can get to multiple baits and bait efficiently.
Yeah.
So finding, walking a mile back and finding a bait on a point going into what I would consider a tag alder marsh, a swamp in a marsh that would be like a bedding area for bears, and finding it right at the mouth where you'd want to be, was pretty surprising to me. We had a couple different occasions when we found setups where, I would normally set up. I usually don't find other people in those spots. So that was pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, it was a good video. I was actually surprised how many different sites that you guys were kind of scouting out. Like, as somebody who's not a bear hunter myself, I didn't really fully understand how many different bait sites and stuff that you guys would run. I mean, how many different places did you actually find that you feel like that are going to be good bait sites or good setups? 4 of them, and you spend an entire day doing that. And on top of that, how many is your outfitter probably going to be running throughout the season?
Well, I think he's a big fan of running really, really good baits, but not a lot of them. I know he lost money the last couple of years. Hasn't been getting a lot of clients. People don't show up, and then they don't hunt seriously.
Really?
They get there on a day or two and they leave. And that
I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, but it's made it hard for him. So he's not making money if he doesn't have clients there, right?
Right.
And then bait is very expensive to get quality bait. So I'm a big fan of running a lot of baits, because then you have a lot of options. You know what I mean? But he's got to make money too. You know what I'm saying? And all outfitters do. So he would rather have really good spots than than
And a
lot.
bunch of maybe potential spots.
Yeah, and if you got to go back in a mile to set up a bait or something to have a really good spot,
Right.
then you can't do 20 of those for 5 clients, right? Money wise, you can't, or you have to price really high up there, which then he loses clients too. So that's it's a hard one. I've told him that for me, I would probably want to put out a good quality number of baits so people have options, or actually he has options. That's one thing I think he does a little wrong. Is I think he kind of lets the hunter, because they're paying, tell him how to do it, and I think that as a guide, he needs to tell those hunters what to do. And I told him that. I said, you need to look at the wind, you need to look at this, that, and the other thing, and tell them, no, you're hunting here today. You can't hunt over there because the wind's bad or whatever. And you need to move those guys around. So I think he's going to do a little more of that this year.
Sure.
But a real big part of it is was tweaking those baits, having them in good spots. Where if there's a bear in that area, he's going to live right there. You know what I mean? So, like for say, one of the spots, I always had a really big bear there. Matter of fact, that bear's been coming in. He was coming in last year. He's been coming in for like 8 years. And the thing is huge, and it's the same bear. And there's competition. There's a guy that knows I'm hunting there, set up a bait like 250 yards from me. And then there was a guy going past on an ATV setting up further back. And we're trying to figure out where that bear was coming from. Originally, I thought he was coming from I set up in this like little swampy area where everything else was kind of woods. And I knew if there's a bear in there, he'd have to be living there. And when I first found a spot, there were bear tracks all over the place, and nobody was hunting back there.
Mm-hmm.
But now they fixed the roads. Like I was really like putting my life in my hands getting back there. Now they fixed everything, So getting back there, other guys are getting back there. Now they're starting to bait around me. And it's public land. I can't tell them where to bait, right? But I started looking at the map a little differently, and I thought, well, I found the swamp that was nearby was all open grass. And bears ain't going to lay in the open grass. They're going to be down in dark, cool areas. So I looked at the map a little careful, and I found a tag alder swamp that's way back that had a funnel going into the hardwoods where there's some oaks and stuff. And we went back there and set up the bait. And when you think about it now, there's 3 other baits in that area that I know of. They're all on those little marshy spots where those bears would go to. They'd hole up next to the bait. But I'm putting it where that bear really wants to live, where he already lives. You know what I mean? Then for those guys to get a bear on their baits, that bear's got to go through me. So I'm going to the source. So if you look at these guys that are hunting, like all the guides up there, and even most of the residents, that hunt, are putting those baits, 100 to maybe 200 yards off the road. They're not wanting to carry it in buckets and stuff, in the baits and the logs and everything else too far back.
Yeah.
But dog hunters are doing the same thing. They're running up and down. There ain't dog hunting, but there's dog runners. You know what I mean? They train with them, right? And they run up and down those roads. And if you got a bear bait there, those dogs, every time they come by, they're going to be able to smell the bears that were there from the truck, and they're going to run off your bait. So you got to get away from those roads, So getting back in there in those funnels and stuff, what you're doing is all those people that are competing up by the road, that bear would rather come to your bait first and then go to those. You know what I mean? If you can get back to where those bears want to be. Bears aren't like deer. Like deer, they'll live right behind your barn if you don't go behind your barn.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They'll live right next to the trail and watch everybody walk past, as long as you don't go in the spot right next to the trail, right? Bears won't do that. They want to be as far away from you as possible. Bears are really solitary animals. They're really afraid of people. Or shy of them, let's say, right? So they're in the more remote areas, but they really have a problem in Wisconsin's time frame for bear season with the heat. When it gets hot out, they want to go down to these low, cool, swampy areas and just get where they can cool down in the day.
Yeah.
Out. So if you can find those low, cool, thick, swampy areas and put a bait near them, especially if they're remote, you'll have bears, and then bears will come from all the other areas because you got bait there. And if it's a good spot, they'll just actually live there. The trouble is, like in Minnesota, we can put out enough bait that they don't run out, and then they'll guard it. They'll get just into that swamp, and anytime a bear comes in there, they'll run in and chase them off. And that's why I do so good in Minnesota. But in Wisconsin, we can only put out 10 gallons. That's the max. So you got to bait it every 2 days to get that situation that the bears guard it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's the strategy as far as human scent being left at bait sites? I mean, is there a strategy to entry into that bait site as opposed to leaving that scent maybe at the stand location, the tree that the hunter's going to be set up at?
Well, what I do is bears are really they key in on patterns a lot.
Okay.
They're very investigative. So they come into a bait site. What we see a lot on the cameras is you don't get hit right away. And you know those bears know that bait's there. As soon as you put it there. We spray oil scents there that those bears can smell for 10 miles. We know they know that it's there. The first ones that'll hit will be small bears. And the big bears will just sit back and wait. They want to come in, but they wait. And what we see a lot is on the camera, you see a bear circle in the distance and not come in. How much of that goes on when outside of the camera? Probably a lot. But bears circle baits a lot. They smell to see if people are there and stuff. They see how you come in. When they get done, when they eat, before they eat, after they eat, they'll follow your trail. If you got a bait trail, you'll constantly notice bear tracks on your trail, bear poop on your trail. They're walking up and down your trail, smelling everywhere you go. Where do you come from? What do you do? So what you want to do is develop a pattern that does not change.
Okay.
So from your vehicle to your bait, as you bait, every time you do everything identical. If you're going to cut shooting lanes, you cut them the day you set up the bait, the day you put the stump there, or before.
Okay.
If you're going to put up a stand, you have that spot picked out day one, right? You know, in a lot of cases, we'll have 2 trees for 2 different winds, right? I will go to each tree. My bait trail will go to each tree out of my way and to the camera every single time. It's the exact same trail, because when I go into hunt, I'm going to go to that tree. There's not going to be any scent that goes somewhere else. And what I see is when we take hunters in, and the hunter sets up in a tree off to the side, like, oh, the wind's blowing this way, I'm going to go over here today. The baits go dead. We take in a hunter and he says, oh, I want to put a camera here, my camera here, I'm going to put it over here. And he walks past the bait and puts a camera out. The bait goes dead.
Wow. So there's a lot of association then with the bait and the pattern of human scent, correct?
Correct.
Is that really what it is? Like,
Correct.
they will tolerate the human scent because it's associated with it, A, being consistent, and B, the bait. Is
and
that right?
consistent in who it is.
Okay.
So if Jeff is baiting,
Yeah.
and then Jeff
It's
takes
his scent.
gets somebody else in there to bait, if that guy doesn't do it on a regular basis, it's going to freak the bear out.
Okay. That makes sense.
Maybe he comes and eats at night then. Maybe he doesn't come at all. What I see a lot with guides is the guides will take hunters out, right? He goes out and baits everything, right? The day before the hunt, he takes all the hunters in and shows them their spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
He walks them to the bait, tells them to bait their own spot. Bait goes dead. What I would do if I'm guiding or if I'm helping somebody hunt is if somebody is baiting that or baiting for you, say you're going up to somebody's private land, they say, well, I'll bait for you. Because you got to bait every like 2 days, right?
Yeah.
So they're baiting for you. I would not walk to that. I'd still stay on the trail. I'd still have my scent just on that trail. But I would only go to the tree and go up the tree. I would never approach the bait. Then another thing we do is we try to set up for crosswinds, not wind in our face. So a crosswind. And the reason is bears will circle the baits. Happens all the time, especially big boars. Will circle the bait and smell to see if there's danger in there. And they do that for more than just look for people.
Right, for
do
other
that.
bears.
You're right, because
Yeah.
there's bears fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also other dangers like people, and they know that baits are danger, right? So they'll circle it. But if they don't know what tree you're hunting out of, all they know is that you walk in there and put bait there. What are they smelling? They're getting downwind of the bait and smelling it, correct?
Right. Yep.
So if they don't know where your tree is because you didn't go stick it off to the side someplace, it's on your bait trail. When they circle downwind, as soon as they smell the bait, which on a crosswind, you've got just off. You know, if you're sitting back 20, 25 yards, hopefully your wind ain't hitting them, and then they come nose to wind straight to the bait, and then you can kill them. A lot of times they'll go downwind, walk around a little bit, and then later come back in. You know, they don't always come in from straight downwind, but a lot of times they smell it. In some of the more open swamps, I've seen them do it quite often. But circling the baits and smelling the baits before they come in is pretty common, and the crosswind kind of takes care of that, and the maintaining one trail takes care of that. You know,
Yeah.
so there's a lot that goes into it. But bears are very intelligent, and the only reason we kill them is because they just love to eat. They're gluttons, right?
Yeah.
So they want to try to find some way to outsmart you and come in and eat. The young ones will come running in. They'll be stupid. They'll make
Sure.
mistakes. But most of the time when we're shooting giant boars, we're shooting bears that can be 10, 15 years old. They don't
It's a
get
lot
that.
of education that they've experienced, a lot of things that they've
You go up
learned.
there, you drive down the road and there's a guy baiting every mile. Do you think a bear gets to be 15 years old by marching into every bait he sees?
Right.
Now another thing that'll throw people off is they watch TV or they watch YouTube and they watch Canadian hunts. Those bears are overpopulated and starving. They come in and they swarm the baits.
Yeah.
And another thing is too, if one bear is coming in, it'll draw in the other bears. They'll feel safe, right?
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Where when you get into an area like southern Wisconsin where there's not a lot of bears, I mean, some of the sea area has absolutely no bears.
Mm-hmm.
There's some of the areas, some of the counties, like the county I live in, virtually have never had a bear shot in it. It's been open for hunting for, I don't know, how many years. I mean, forever.
Yeah.
You can hunt bears where I live. Good luck. you know, but there's not a lot of bears in this unit. So, and there's a lot of competition because they give a lot of tags because they're trying to keep them from expanding. So when there's not a lot of bears, they're smarter about coming in, and the older ones are very educated.
Sure. I mean, I've talked to some guys that just are trying to do it kind of DIY, not going with an outfitter. Say they're going up maybe every weekend or something like that to bait a site or a couple sites on a property that they own or
Good
whatever
luck.
the case may be. And time and time again, I hear this being brought up. I got to find something else to use for bait because they're not coming in to what I have out there. Do you think that has more to do with the way they're doing it as opposed to what they're actually using for bait?
That's probably a combination of both. I do think that most people are using good bait. You know, if they make that comment.
Yeah.
If they make that comment, they already know that they need to use good bait. So I think they're already using good bait, but they're blaming the bait for their bad habits and for the bears.
Sure.
If you start baiting in April, you'd be shocked. The bears will come in, they'll be in all day long. You start getting into July, they'll come walking in at noon. You'll think, oh, I'm going to kill a bear so easy. They're not the same bear in September.
Sure. When can you start baiting here in Wisconsin?
I believe it's mid-April.
Mid-April. So right around this time then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Boy, and how often are outfitters doing that? Like
Not-
starting?
Not many because of money-wise.
Yeah, I mean that's because you got to be consistent with it, right? I mean, there's no
No,
benefit
not
to.
really. Not really.
No.
So,
Okay.
So for me, I want to make sure new baits are baited from the beginning. But I might bait him once every 2 weeks. You know, I was talking to Jeff
But
about
still.
maybe even just once or twice a month, right? Maybe even just a ice cream pail.
Oh,
So
okay. So you're not going the full
this is
10
not
gallons.
that they learn that that's a baiting spot, right? But once you get close to June, before June starts, I'd start baiting regularly. And most outfitters won't. They wait till like August. But the reason I want to do that is because that's when the bears go. That's their rut is in June. So the boars will go from bait to bait to bait, looking for sows and stuff, and they'll find your baits. They'll follow the sows in and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you'll get your biggest bears on your baits in June. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, those bears that come in June will show back up in the fall. So it's a lot of those giants. So for me, I want to have that bait going in June,
Sure.
and I want it to be going good. And that's when I get my best pictures. I mean, and a lot of the fun of the bear baiting is the pictures. But that bear rut is a great time. I mean, if we had a spring season in Wisconsin for baiting, they would kill bears like you wouldn't believe.
Oh.
It's way easier than in September. We do our September hunt a little too late. Like in Minnesota, they open it on September 1st. It's really, they start getting that lethargic stopping coming into the bait right around the end of that first week of September, which is about when we open in Wisconsin. Minnesota opens on September 1st.
Sure. What is the what kind of range do these bears have? So if you're getting pictures, say in June, or during the rut in that, what is the likelihood of that boar being back around when you're actually hunting them?
Well, they've got their areas. Now, some bears will live in an area in June and be in a whole different area in September. Kind of
Okay.
like deer, right? Kind of
Sure.
like deer.
Yep. Right.
But there's a lot of bears that live in an area and they'll come back, right? What's interesting is, like, if you look at Minnesota, where I do my best, and it's because of the laws there. Honestly, it's because they open on September 1st, and because they don't have a limit on how much bait I can put out. So because of that, I've never done a do-it-yourself hunt in Minnesota where I have not shot in a bear. Where I fail the majority of the time in Wisconsin, even though there's more bears here.
Really?
It's just because of what I'm allowed to do there, baiting wise, and how I do it. And I'm competing against people in Minnesota that aren't doing near as good as I am. But they're not doing what I do, right? So now I kind of lost my point.
It happens.
Yeah. It'll come back sometime.
I'm just going to pull up, so we're getting a slew of questions coming in here, various
Sure.
questions here, but I've got one here that relates to bear hunting. It's from Hunting Factor. Dan, would love to do a bear hunt in Wisconsin guided by Jeff. How soon should I start applying for a tag, and how much does he charge?
Geez, I don't know what it is. I would imagine he's in the $1,200 or $1,300 range. You probably just have to call him and find out. He's an easygoing guy. Call him and have a conversation. You can expect to get a tag in 2 seasons. You might even get it the first year. I've gotten tags 2 or 3 years in a row already. Because they give so many tags around out here. You need to get your tag in now. Apply now for next year. You might be able to go next year. Might be the year after.
Okay. Steve asks, is it difficult to figure out where bears are bedding and living?
No. Thick, cool, low swamps in Wisconsin. Now, there are areas like western Wisconsin where they start getting into the hills and stuff in the farmland. But they're usually down in the draws and stuff in the low, cool areas. Again, right? But most of the public land in Wisconsin, you're going to find the bears down in low, cool, wet swamps. You know those swamps when you walk in them and it gets dark in daylight, and you just feel the temperature drop when you walk in there? That's what they kind of like. I like a grassy, thick tag, immature tamarack type swamp where it's boggy, where you step and you move your foot. There's water there. There's little high spots. That's what the bears like. They love that. And they'll get down into those tangles and live back in there. And then they do not like pines. They will travel through pines. They don't mind being around pines. Don't take that wrong. But there's nothing to eat in pines. They like hardwoods, right? So if you can get hardwoods up against a spot like that, you know, I love to take a swamp and look at the hardwood ridge that goes to it and get right on the edge of that hardwood ridge. Just like deer, I'll look for a point or a finger that goes out into that swamp. But I'm not looking for cattails. I'm not looking for grass. I'm looking for that grassy brush that's dark, where they're shaded really well. A really good swamp will have tunnels through it from the bears.
Because they want to keep cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Todd asks, what's your take on guys training / running dogs for bear and your bait site gets pressured?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't mind them running dogs and training. I'm not an anti-hunter. I've hunted with dogs. You guys all watched that last fall. But
Till we got cut off.
right. Until we got our show taken down.
Yeah.
But they watched that on my YouTube channel.
Yes, correct. Yes.
But on here, we're not allowed to show that kind of stuff,
Right.
unfortunately.
Very
But,
PG here.
Right. But what I did run into was aggressive people that were finding my baits and running off them on purpose, stealing my cameras and stuff. Now, that's not the majority of dog hunters. That's a minority group that nobody likes, not even the other dog hunters, because it gives them a bad name, you know?
Right.
But I really think that if you're going to hunt with bear dogs, you should probably practice where you hunt. Not, go to somebody else's unit. And I've had plenty of these people tell me, I'm coming down to run dogs in Unit C because I hunt bears in Unit A and I don't want to pressure them before I hunt them. So they're going to pressure the bears where I hunt. And the same person will tell you when you say, well, if you're running dogs off my bait, you're messing my bait up. They'll tell you, oh, they'll come back. Yeah, but you don't want to do it by your area because it'll pressure them. So I mean, they believe what they want to believe to whatever gives them the best results.
Sure.
But the big thing is with the dog hunters is you got to look at how you hunt a little differently and how you pick spots. So one of my big secrets is you don't go out in the middle of the national forest and find one of these good spots and put a bait, because you're going to end up with dog trainers on it, unfortunately. So what I do in dog territory, if I'm going to be hunting and there's going to be dogs running, practicing, or hunting, it's the same to me, is I try to put my baits near highways, near private land that don't allow dogs, places where the dog hunters do not want their dogs. They can't stop their dogs from going on private land, so they don't want to hunt next to private land, because if they get into private land, they're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, right.
They don't want to run next to, like say in Black River Falls, Highway 54, because the dogs run across that road, they're going to get killed. So they try to go, and they're just practicing, they're not killing, so they're a little bit more likely to go hunt where they got free range, right? So if I go to where they won't hunt, I'm more likely to get on big bears, and get on bears that are unharassed. We'll get in a routine of coming into your baits, But yeah, I have had some problems with. Really, it's been one group in that area that has caused me some problems.
All right. Got a question here from Charles. He says, how did you find those remote spots in Minnesota?
In Minnesota, the first time I hunted up there, which is back in the early 2000s, there was a guy that came on my website who said he was a guide, and he was guiding in Minnesota, and he offered me a free hunt if I would talk about his bear hunts, and I did, and I went up there and hunted with him, and it was the worst hunt I've ever been on. He wasn't no guide. He was somebody that was getting his bear hunt paid for by getting people to come up there and pay him. Out of 13 people in the camp, one person saw a bear that spooked because he was set up incorrectly, and one person had a sow and cubs come in. Most of the baits were within 100 yards of the road. The guy that saw the sow and cubs was literally, I don't even think he was legally far enough away from the road. He was like 20 feet in from the road.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was just horrible. And I just thought, when I looked at this, I even stayed longer. I hunted it for like 2 weeks. I came back. I kept going back up there trying, and you'd only get night hits, and the bears were real skittish and stuff. And I thought, man, you know what? I could do this better. And then from then on, I went up there on my own, and every single year after that, I had no problem killing a bear, and many of them were really good bears. You know, I killed a 15-year-old boar. I killed a 12-year-old sow. Some old bears that were, you know, huge, really, for up in that area. And what I did was I just went up there with the maps, looked at it, mapped it out just like we were just talking, finding those swamps and stuff, driving around, putting out these baits in these areas, and tweaking them over the years. So they've got some strange rules in Minnesota next to Wisconsin. Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, but the rules are different. So in Minnesota, you're only allowed 3 baits. When I first started there, that wasn't the case. It is now. But you're allowed 3 baits, and you have to register those baits with the DNR, so they know exactly where your bait is. And then you don't have a limit on bait, and you can only start baiting on August 15th, I think it is. Or don't quote me on that, but I think it's August 15th. And you can start hunting on September 1st, despite what the days are. You know, whether it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, or whatever, right? So you only got 15 days of baiting. So basically, we would go up there and we'd put out the equivalent of about 2 barrels of dense bait at each bait, maybe a little more than that, and cover it with logs. You can't use barrels on public, or you couldn't fit it all on a stump, right? So we bury it in logs, and then use various scents, and bait the same spots that we'd hunted in the past. And what we do from the beginning was I always took 4 guys, because there's no place to stay up there or anything, so you have to run a bear camp. You have to skin your bears. You have to have a way of processing them, a way of packing them. Somebody has to cook. You have to have you have to live in the woods. So there's a lot of work involved in it. So we would have a camp. So you could apply with up to a group of up to 4 people. So I always went with a group. I mean, at first I started with 2 people. It was very hard, but we got it done. And then it got up to 4 people, and it's varied a little bit, but it's gotten into a groove with the same people mostly. And we're always successful. What I was going to say before, at the point that I lost before,
Oh yeah.
what I was going to say was that those baits, when I first started hunting there, you got to tag every year. You had to apply, but you draw every year. And back then, everybody was complaining because like hardly anybody was getting bears. I was, but hardly anybody else. And they were complaining, and the DNR didn't like it either. So they were trying to find ways to make it better. So they had to take 2 years, and then 3 years, and now it's taking 4 or 5 years to get a permit up there. But my point was that some of these baits, I've had the same bears coming in for years, and you have baits around it a mile that way and a mile the other way that the bears that are on this bait never hit. You know what I'm saying? And you'd come back 3 years or 4 years later, and the same bear with the same markings would hit the same bait, but not the other one. It's real interesting that sometimes you could take a bait that wasn't doing really well and move it 100 yards, and it would do great.
What do you suppose the reason is for that?
They didn't like the position.
Just
Some reason
tricky.
or another. Maybe the way the wind flows or something they just didn't like about it. but I've gotten pretty good at picking those spots now. Now I really push that envelope right up against the swamps. But we're always like say for the 4 people you have 12 baits. I'm always like looking for another one that's better. You try to reduce 1 or 2, put 1 or 2 in to the mix. You know what I mean? New ones. And I'll probably get forced into that when I go back up there because I haven't been up there for 6 years. And with the logging and stuff, I'm sure I've lost some spots. So I got to get up there scouting this year. I'm gonna have to take a trip up there and stay up there for a good 3 or 4 days or something and really get that my hunt for this fall figured out.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to that. That whole living in the wilderness, thing is just, I love it up there.
Absolutely. All right. Another question for you, Dan. This comes from Ryan Miller, 87. I live near a marsh. It has mature trees, mostly elm, but some oak. However, the hills and mature timber are about 6 miles away. This marsh floods every spring. Think it can produce a bear? Think it could.
Yeah, I guess, sure it could. There's one way to find out, right? Put some baits out there and find out if you got a tag. What I would look at is what does the land around it look like, right? Is there better stuff? If it's a marsh, I would consider it's probably got the best terrain around. Because usually marshes are surrounded by dry land, right? So somewhere in there's probably the best of the terrain that you have, which is where the bear is going to be. Kind of like how I look at deer. There's in Wisconsin here near my house. There's such great terrain that I really got to search and find the best spots, real deep in and stuff. But you go down to like Iowa, where there's an overpopulation and there's no terrain. You got a bunch of farm fields and stuff. You'll find giant bucks bedded out in tree lines. You'll find them by a bush out in the middle of a field. Why? Because that's the best they have, right? So, if you have bears in the area and you have a marsh like that, I would probably try it. Just keep the rules in mind that they like to bed where they're in a dark, cool spot. They like to get out of the sun for sure, more so than a deer. Just keep that in mind when you're looking for the spot. But I would certainly give it a shot.
All right. So, outside of bear hunting, we mentioned it a little bit earlier here, but we're about to start turkey hunting. Dan, do you have a tag for this season here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I got the last 3 tags, the last 3 time zones.
So what is that? D, E, and F?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that are those the seasons you typically go for, or?
Hell no.
No,
Those are the worst ones for me because I know a lot of people like the later seasons, but I'm hunting all public and I'm hunting in an overpopulated area of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the properties I hunt get pressured. And getting on there first is usually a really, really good thing. So when I draw a season 1 or a season 2 tag, I usually do way better. But I've gotten them late season 2. So the reason I have 3 tags for late season is because 2 of them I bought over the counter, and usually the later ones, there's always leftovers because everybody's trying to get the first ones.
Yeah.
And then I drew like the, what is it, C or whatever?
D.
Or E. I drew E, or whichever one, the earliest one.
That would be D, yeah. So for where you're at, that was the earliest you could get.
Yeah.
And what was your preference when you put in?
I always put in for the first season, and then second season is second preference.
Yeah, and then you get what you get, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for whatever zone I'm in, more south central Wisconsin. I mean, I can get A pretty much every year. In fact, usually I typically apply for B, just because I feel like I've had more success over the years with B than A. Some of that's weather related and that, but yeah, I'll be heading up this weekend filming for my brother. What kind of tactics do you use on public land for turkey hunting, especially in a situation like this where you're hunting those later seasons, where they've been pressured, they've been called to, God knows how many times. What is your go-to tactic for those seasons on
I
public?
like to drive around before my season and see if I can locate birds and
Sure.
see where they're roosting. Watch them with binoculars from the road. You can't just park and look at them though, because they freak out. They're pretty pressured around here.
Yeah.
But if you drive by, you notice them. You keep looking. You drive by a few times. You watch them. If you can get to a position where you can get out of the vehicle, go over and just glass them for a while, see where they go to roost. They seem to repeat those things. So then I'll go into an area like that to hunt them. But quite often, I don't get them from roost. Quite often, I just drive around during my season and find birds on public. A lot of the places I hunt turkeys are open, wide open, or surrounded by farm fields. So you see them on the private.
Yeah.
You just watch them. If they're near the public, I go into the public, call them onto the public, and kill them. I do that a lot. This year, I might break my habit if I can find a private place to hunt. My granddaughter's been hinting about wanting to come along.
Cool.
So I might try to get her along for a hunt if I can find a private place to go and put her in a tent with me and see if she can sit through me shooting a turkey. And if she can, next year, hopefully she can go hunting too. I don't know. She says she wants to, but her mom and dad don't hunt, and she has had no exposure to it, but she's showing some real signs that she's interested. I know.
How old is she?
She's either 11 or 12. I think she's 11. She was finally allowed to use Facebook Limited for kids, and her mom puts in who she can talk to, like message.
Yeah.
She put me in there, and she randomly messages me, and she messaged me, "What are you doing, Grandpa?" And I took a selfie of me holding up a handful of sheds, and she's like, "Bring them over. I want them." So, she said, "Bring them over for Easter," and I forgot them. And she's like, and it was like weeks later, and she runs up to me, "Did you bring me the sheds?" So I think she's got some interest. So I think turkeys is the way to start.
Yeah.
I mean, she's kind of a girly girl. I certainly don't want to put a stand on her back and wade her through a swamp. You know what I mean? Or
You don't
even
want to do that with some grown adults.
right. And I certainly don't want to do turkeys the way I do turkeys, crawling through the bushes and stuff with her, and
Right.
thorns and ticks and everything else. So I think if I could find a place to put her in a blind, I might do that, and just see how she likes it. If she can stomach watching a bird get shot, I think she can. So we'll try.
Sure. Yeah, I'm taking my 7-year-old. I've got seasons B and D right now, so I'm going to take him for season D, and we'll be set up on private. Probably picked up one of those Tidewee
The see-through.
supposedly see-through blinds. I just set up in my backyard. I'm like, this thing's going to be a mine effer.
Yeah, I
Have you ever sat in one of those?
Yeah, I used to work with Tidewee. They paid me really, really well, but I just couldn't work for a Chinese company. It's just me. But anywho, I got one of those blinds and did set it up in the yard by my food plot and sat in it, and it was amazing that you're like, these things. If there's suns behind you, they're gonna see your shadow in there.
Right.
But if you got it set up correctly, you're sitting there and you're looking at animals walk right up to you. There's pheasants walking right up against it. So have no idea. I'm in there moving around, I was like, wow. It was kinda cool.
How does yours have like the blackout thing that you can put up?
No,
Does it have the back?
I don't think so. I got the first ones they made. When they
Sure,
first
yeah. This one's got a.
probably different now.
It's-
Matter of fact,
it's-
mine got destroyed within 2 weeks. It was-
Yeah, this one comes with a panel that you can put up, and you can have a blackout, back screen. You know, if you want, it's actually reversible. You could have a camouflage as well.
I really, for me, I mean, I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of the tents. I mean, it's okay, but I
No,
really
it's-
love chasing them down on the public land and like being aggressive. And if you blow it, you just go after the next one. And it just because turkeys really don't matter that much to me. The enjoyment is in the chase, you know. For
Right.
me, I mean, so
Yeah, I don't mind sitting a little bit, but I can't do it. And I've done it. I mean, I've done it years ago where I've spent an entire day in that, and you just start to go batty in there. Because you can't, I mean, whether it be in something that's see-through like one of these Tide Wees, I know there's other brands out there as well, but, or just a regular pop-up line, and you're just looking through slats and openings and that, you start to go crazy in there. It's a big difference between that and sitting in a tree stand where you have everything to kind of look at. And
I'll
kinda
tell you
look
what.
around.
I mean, we're probably boring people like crazy because I don't get any views on my turkey shows, even though they're kind of cool chasing these things down and sneaking up on them and stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody watches the damn things.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because not everybody has an abundance of turkeys in
I don't think that's what it is. I think that most of the people watching are just deer hunters. You know.
well, yeah, I think by and far for sure. Yeah, in fact, I even put the comment out there, anyone who want to talk turkeys, and didn't get a big response here, but we are getting into that season here, and it is something I do enjoy for sure. Look at this guy right here. Is that a question here? Missed it here. I got so many. Let's see. This is, I think, based on the rain here. Jim says, I'm watching dumpsters float away in my neighborhood. I can hear it raining pretty hard by you. I can hear it through here. I got one of the windows open over here. Not open, but I got the curtains open, and the wind is blowing like crazy. How is it by you right now?
It's pouring.
Yeah, sounds like it. Yeah, but all right. Let's see. Do we have any other questions here?
Deer questions?
Any what?
Deer questions?
I'm gonna have to scroll back here a bit. There might have been a couple here. If anybody has any deer hunting questions, now is the time.
Now that we lost all the deer hunters talking about bears and turkeys.
Right. We had a fair amount of questions when it came to the bears, that's for sure. That's promising to see. All right, so what else while you're out? How do you utilize turkey hunting to benefit your deer scouting? Is it kind of a twofold? I mean, I know I find myself spending a lot of time while I'm out turkey hunting, especially if I'm out chasing. I get distracted by big rubs and different sign that I'm seeing out there in the springtime. Do you find yourself doing that? Does it just come naturally to you to like automatically kind of be looking at deer sign while you're out there turkey hunting?
Here's the thing. I mean, I might occasionally walk into deer sign and be like, oh, I got to look into this a little better.
Yeah.
But not very often. Usually I'm turkey hunting, I'm in turkey areas, and I already know the area for deer.
Sure.
For
Because
me,
it's the same properties or the same.
So I know where the deer bed and stuff like that. The only thing that might happen is every now and then I might run into some really big sign and be like, oh, there's a big one in here now I didn't know about. Maybe I should hunt these areas. But the places I turkey hunt are the places I deer hunt, you know. I really, you know, if you've watched my videos, you got to probably realize that in my area around my home, I've scouted every piece of property around here. In a property I haven't been on where I haven't learned the bedding, that's public. So that being the case, I already know those properties. So that's not really, and I'm sure most of the people watching this, where they turkey hunt, they deer hunt. They already know the area. I don't think they're learning much about deer hunting by turkey stuff. I hear people say that all the time, but I don't know if that's cliche or if it's for real. I mean, even you, I mean, where you're hunting turkeys is your lease, where you already deer hunt. You already know that lease by heart.
Right. I mean, it's not the only place I turkey hunt. I mean, I do public land as well, so it's a little bit of both. And I mean, it's the same thing when I'm out shed hunting. I get so distracted shed hunting that I'm not focused on looking for sheds, that most of the time I'm looking at trees, I'm looking at different sign, I'm looking at different setups, whether that be either on a particular lease that I have or even on public land. I just get so distracted. I'm always thinking about fall. You know, that's always on my mind. Like, what I find in the meantime, or what's happening in spring, is just a benefit, you know, just a bonus. But ultimately, my mind is always on deer hunting in the fall. And I'm sure you're the same way. And as most of you probably are as well. So here we got a question. Looks like it might be deer hunting related. And it's from John Gutierrez, our good friend that donated $199 earlier. What's y'all's opinions on deer hunting over ponds and water holes in the woods versus hunting over a running creek or a small river?
Jeez, I mean, to me, it's all relative to bedding. So, why would I be hunting over water? If I'm hunting the water because it's water, it's probably hot out, and they're coming there to drink, and it's near bedding. Then it's not. It doesn't make no difference. I mean, sometimes hunting near water, being a pond or being a creek, has to do with wind. You know what I mean? You're hunting in that area because of movement, and you got to use the water as either for the thermals or for the flow of the air. You know, like if you get along a creek, if the creek's got moving water, a lot of times the stagnant air will follow the water. If you're hunting near a pond and the pond is stagnant and shallow, usually the water gets like bathtub water where it's warm. And during the day, the water's cooler than the air when the sun's blaring on it. But as soon as the sun goes over the horizon, the water is now warmer than the air when you get that temperature drop. And then there's a thermal rise off of that water, and it sucks your thermals right to it from close by. So that might put me right to that water edge because it'll suck my thermal to that water and then push my scent straight up. And makes you kind of bulletproof. But at sunset, you know what I'm saying? Or when the sun is not hitting the water anymore. But other than that, I don't know what he's getting at with the water reference.
Okay. This one, it's kind of both back to the bear hunting and deer hunting. Sergeant K81 millimeter. Does learning to bear hunt make deer hunting easier, since bear can smell better than deer?
No, I don't think so.
Or do you disagree as far as the smelling part, or just everything?
I mean, if you understand smell, you understand smell, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess what he's probably getting at is like, will bear make you understand that, you know, how smell works more with a deer because of how well they smell? With me, not necessarily. I mean, I look at bear as bear and deer as deer, and they both smell incredibly well. You know, bear do smell better than deer, but with how well a deer smells and a bear smells, I don't think to a human you'd really even know the difference. But I just don't relate the two. Bears think more. They will contemplate, kind of like they sit back, think about, is this safe, isn't this safe, how could I go about this? Like, you'll watch them come in and look at a bait and just hold back for a while, think about what they're doing, scratch their ear a little bit, look at it, maybe wander off, maybe come back from a different angle, circle it to see if you're there, go over and check where you park. You know, they do some weird stuff. where I've never seen deer do that. They just kind of go through the woods paranoid. You know what I mean? Two different animals act totally different. I don't think one helps you with the other one. Just my take.
Okay. Big Buck student asks, Scott and Dan, I want to get both of your opinions on Michigan proposing a $1 season, and some people think we should have to kill a doe before we kill a buck. What do you guys think? Dan, I'll let you take it first.
Well, as far as the first part of your question is proposing $1 season, I think if they get that through, in about 3 years, everybody will love it. And I think right now, probably at least half of the people hate it. And it's really hard to get it through to people how much better their hunting is going to be if they get it down to $1. Even Wisconsin, if they could reduce it to $1, our hunting would get incredible. I mean, Wisconsin would almost, within a couple of years, would be better than Iowa. I mean, the genetics we have and the number of deer we have, it would get great. But we still got it better than Michigan in that we're only allowed one with a bow and one with a gun. Now, you can take two with the bow if you do it during gun season or whatever, yeah. But you got to do it during gun season, you know. Where Michigan, you can do 2 deer period. Doesn't matter whether your bow, doesn't matter whether your gun, or $2 period, I mean. And what the people in charge will throw past you, the one that they like to say is when they're trying to fight this is only 6% of the population actually shoots $2. So it's really a non-issue. But in reality, when you look at that 6%, it really isn't the issue. The issue is the ones that shot the first one knowing they have a second tag. That's a huge percentage. But they're just telling you about the 6% that were successful in both. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of them that shoot the first little buck they see, and then they hold out for the bigger one. And those are the guys that are knocking your numbers down. Knocking it down to $1 makes a guy picky, makes a guy hold out, and will grow your deer to a better age class. You'll see more deer. Now, as far as the second part of the question, I do not think you should have to shoot a doe first. If your population is that skewed, they should just give out more doe tags. If it's really out of whack, I don't think it would hurt nothing, but I certainly didn't like earn a buck. I guess it has worked. People call it a success in Wisconsin. I think it was an epic failure. It caused a whole bunch of button bucks to get killed. It had people cheating, finding road kills, and here we didn't have a population problem that they claimed we did, though, in my opinion. I have seen areas of Michigan. That's why I'm being careful about this question. When I hunted with the Public Land Challenge in Michigan, one of the spots I hunted, I think I had 27 does go past me in one day. So I mean, there can be areas that have problems, you know. But with that said, you got to have numbers of bucks in order to create big bucks, and you have to have people passing bucks to create big bucks when you have the population of hunters you have in Michigan. And it would make you have really big bucks really fast. And what happens is it gets addicting. Like, say when I go down and hunt in Iowa, there's a lot of people down there that I would consider amateur hunters, you know, that are hunting the public. And you talk to them, and they're all holding out to for you know, at least 130 and up. You know, I hardly ever ran into anybody that was hunting, just wanted to shoot a deer. You know, when I was in Iowa, because they have deer go past them every day. You know, bucks. So if you've tasted it, if you've had a few big bucks go past you, if you shot a big buck, you start saying, "Hey, I like this. I want more." And then those people, when they start shooting big bucks on a regular basis, in 5 years, the people that are bitching about it now will say it's the best thing in the world and will fight you if you try to remove it. It's kind of like antler restrictions, but not as well. Antler restrictions have done that. They've taken areas and they've gotten the people that hated it start liking it. But they're not as good usually as the $1 thing, because what happens with antler restrictions is people will if it's a 4-point rule on one side, they shoot the 1.5-year-olds that have 4 points on one side because they think if they let it go, somebody else will shoot it.
Yeah.
And then they get a big 6-pointer in front of them that's a mature and they're mad. So I don't like the antler restriction type things. Man, I would love to shoot a world record 6-pointer. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
world record 4-corn.
Right.
I'm not about score, but I am about mature animals. If I got to pass mature animals because of some stupid rule, I don't like that. I think it's a rarity that you have to, but they do kind of create that too. I mean, those 4-pointers are going to grow up and breed. You know what I'm saying? So I like the idea of $1 because I think that you'd start seeing a lot more big bucks really fast in Michigan. Good luck getting it past the people with the old school mentality of shoot the first buck and then hold up for a big one. People do not like the way they do things to change. You know what I mean? It's like if people don't start out beast style, try to tell a guy that rotates between stands what he's doing is wrong. Or not wrong, but this is how we're going to do it here on this property. They don't like that. They want to keep up doing what they're doing, what they're used to. They don't like going outside of that box. You know what I mean? And that telling them that they won't be able to shoot the bucks they've been shooting every year. There's going to be a lot of fighting on that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the one nice thing about Wisconsin with the $2 thing is, yeah, like you mentioned, sure, you can take 2 with a bow, with the lesser weapon. Otherwise, it's one with the bow or archery equipment and one with a firearm equipment. I do agree with you that if we did go down to $1, that the state would change astronomically in terms of the quality of deer. The age class of deer would definitely change, because there is something to be said. I mean, I feel like to a certain extent that I'm more focused on shooting my better buck during archery season, and my standards almost lower for whatever reason. I don't know why it is, but my standards kind of drop down a little bit during rifle season. Now, with that said, I haven't shot a buck during rifle season in some years, because even though my standards lower, I still have standards, right? There's still a certain class of deer that I want to take, and I pass out bucks every single year. And I noticed my brother was on in the live chat a little while ago, and then he could probably contest to this. I don't remember the last time I actually shot a buck during rifle season. And it's not for the lack of opportunity. It's just I always kind of go into rifle season or into firearm season with that mentality of like, or there's certain bucks I'll see during archery season, like, maybe come gun season, maybe I'll take them. I don't know. I don't know why that is, but I definitely have that mentality. And then the season comes around and I end up passing them up again anyways, just because it's just who I am. But I think as far as what Michigan is going through, I don't necessarily think it's necessarily a bad thing. Because what do we hear time and time again from hunters in Michigan? We hear that the quality of deer just isn't what they would like it to be. I think we hear that here in Wisconsin too. Everybody wants to be Iowa. Everybody wants to be Kansas. Mm-hmm. But what is it going to take to become a state like that? Well, for one, I mean, our over-the-counter non-resident tags are ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, but how many people are here hunting?
I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't give you that number of that. Do you have any idea what it is?
Yeah, we don't get the non-resident hunters that like Iowa gets. They have to limit them because of how many they get.
Well, sure, right. And that's because Iowa is what it is.
Right, and if we got to that, we'd have to limit it too. But as of
Sure.
right now, we don't have to.
Yeah. I'm just looking at a couple comments here.
So I mean, let's talk about for a second here. You know,
Hang on, I'm just going to pull up this one here. Jay Tanner said, Scott's buck this past season, great example. If there was antler restrictions, Scott would not have been able to shoot slickback. Actually, I mean, I don't know. He's got,
Depends on the antler restrictions.
yeah, he's got a total of 10 points. So, yeah. I mean, I guess it's inches or whatever, but in most cases. But that is a good point, though.
Spot last year where it had to be 13 inches inside. That saved
Yeah.
a lot of deer. There's
Yeah.
a lot of them in front of me that I thought, I think it's there, but I don't know. And
you have to be
it's a
sure.
Citation. It's a citation if you make
Yeah.
a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't mess around. I'm sorry, Dan, but as you were saying.
I was saying, well, why don't we talk about, you know, going off of his question, but going in a little different direction. What does it take to create a great state for deer hunting?
I would say probably an overall change of mentality for the hunters in that state. Right?
And that alone is going to create big bucks.
Well, no, not that alone. I mean, but it's a culture shift, right? I mean, I think we deal with that in Wisconsin too. You had mentioned before about if I don't shoot this buck, the neighbor's going to shoot it, or you know what I mean? Like the brown it's down mentality.
Okay, but there's places in Wisconsin where people shoot giant bucks every year. There's guys that shoot 150, 60-inch bucks every year. Why? Why? Why do they do that in Wisconsin and I can't and you can't? What is the reason?
I don't know.
The reason is that they're on a property that's locked up. They're the only ones there.
Oh, that way. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean,
Yep.
there's places that, I mean, I just looked at a lease just the other day. I could look it up now. I think it was $46,000 for no more than 3 guys could hunt the property. $46,000 in Wisconsin. And it said in there, shoot 150-inch bucks every year. Right? And they could probably do that on that property. I'm sure of it. I mean, it was 500 acres. And it's in a premium county. So, why are they shooting bucks like that? Because there's less pressure and more bucks, right? So literally, all you have to do is create a place where people do pass little bucks, and there's more bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go down to Iowa, I don't think it has better genetics than where I live in southeastern Wisconsin. Not at all. Mature buck for mature buck. If you take 5-year-old here and a 5-year-old there, I think the average 5-year-old here is bigger than where I hunt in Iowa. And yet people are shooting giants down in Iowa. You know why? Because there's more of them 5-year-old bucks.
Right.
But average-wise, if you had the same number here, we have much bigger animals. You know, but why are they? Because there's more of them. So when I hunt here, and I hunt on public land here, say I hunt 5 days in rut here in southeastern Wisconsin on public land, and I know this area really well. How many deer do I see in a solid 5 days of hunting? Maybe, if you include the does, 8, maybe 10. Now, maybe I'd see a little more if I sat field edges and stuff, but I go down to Iowa, and I hunt public land, and in 10 days or whatever, I'll see, or 5 days is what I said. Say 5 days. Say I see 150 deer, and I see 20 Pope and Youngs, 1 Boone and Crockett.
Yeah, that's wild.
Because there's so many deer, right? But they're not trying to micromanage their land into having no deer, right? They're making money off those deer.
Right.
Where our state has this idea we only need 5 deer per square mile. Ask these biologists, 5 deer per square mile. And if there's any more than that, we're bad hunters. We're not doing earn a buck. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. We're ruining the area. Look at this. There's 10 deer per square mile here. You know what they're going to do? They're going to eat all the crops. They're going to that micromanagement of
CWD.
and managing by numbers makes it so that you don't have the opportunities to kill the deer. If you take, like when we had Ernebuck here, right here.
Yeah. Feels like a long. Actually, it was quite a while ago now. What was it?
So for a while there, they had you could shoot as many bucks as you want. You had to shoot a doe first, right?
Yep.
So
It was wild.
I live on a 2,500 acre marsh. You see foreign plates here. You see the neighbors hunt here. Everybody around here wants this marsh. There is probably, I'm sure there's more than 500 people that hunt that marsh in a year. That's what I think. There's 500 people. You shot 500 does in that marsh, we would have no more does. They can't all shoot a doe. They can't. They can't all shoot a buck, right? Mm-hmm. But if
some
you
aren't able to either. I mean, aren't gonna.
Right, but if you take that marsh and you make it 5 deer per square mile, what is 2,500 acres? I think it's 4 square miles. We're gonna have 20 deer there for that 500 people. 20 deer, not 20 trophies.
Right.
20 deer. The difference in Iowa to Wisconsin or on any of these other places is there's, number one, less hunters. Number two, less killing of animals. Number three, more selective. Now, selective can come from laws, and it can come from people getting exposed to how many big animals there are. There are no laws protecting the deer down in Iowa. You can shoot a forkhorn if you want. But people aren't doing it because they've been exposed to what it's like to shoot big bucks, so they hold out for them.
Right.
And the same thing would happen in Michigan if they exposed it. You know what happened in Buffalo County? You know, Buffalo County, they shoot more Pope and Youngs, more Boone and Crockett's than any place else.
Yeah, I mean, it is the number one Boone and Crockett county in North America.
Buffalo County, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. What happened there was, and if you ever want to see something really cool, and if you haven't done this, and I'd be willing to bet a lot of the people watching this haven't done this, go online and search Monarch Valley, and I can't think of the name of the other one. But if you search Monarch Valley, there's 2 or 3 DVDs that a outfitter put out many, many, many years ago. I think it was in the 80s. About Buffalo County. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's really old and it's put together kind of like my old DVDs were. But they are still available. I saw them a couple years ago for sale. And anywho, what happened in Buffalo County was one year, right the night of, like, before gun season, they had a massive snowstorm. It's a very rural area. Buffalo County is the only county in the state, I think, that doesn't have a Walmart in the whole county.
Yeah, and
it's pretty rural.
It is.
So anywho, they had this massive snowstorm that got buried, and nobody could even traverse the roads or anything on opening weekend of gun season, and it was pretty much like that most of the week. And this goes way back. And they didn't have this big kill of deer that they usually had. And the next year they had another similar storm, and some things happened, and they got more hunting in than the year before, but it wasn't like that first year, or it wasn't like they killed the number they usually kill, right? In that third year, everybody shot monsters. And it changed the whole mentality, like, look what happened, just a season of not hunting.
Right.
And everybody was freaking out about that, and the whole mentality, the whole county changed, and now they shoot the biggest bucks in the world. And they didn't before that snowstorm.
Right.
It was literally a snowstorm that changed that county and made it the best county in the world.
That, and once that mentality changed, because it took that.
It took a taste of those antlers.
Right, and the circumstances changed, and then the mentality changed afterwards. But would you also agree that the habitat that Buffalo County is, much like Trempealeau and that as well, right there, those two counties in that bluff country, those hill countries, are very suitable for producing big bucks as well.
I don't
And then
think
couple that,
the rest of the state. I don't know what you're getting at there.
all right, but
Bunch of
couple
farm
that,
and hills.
well, it's farm country and hills, right? Now, couple that with the fact that it's mostly private land out there. I mean, there's not much for public land out there.
That's true.
So and there's outfitters galore. Now, a lot of that stemmed off of this, Monarch Valley, right? And everything that transpired after that. But it happened quite rapidly after that time period, after those 2 seasons, correct?
Yeah.
That everything kind of changed. There was like a light bulb type situation that happened in that area. And everybody was, it's just nothing but leases, private lands, outfitters ever since then.
Yeah. The outfitters don't help anything. They hurt it.
But we're talking about quality deer management, right?
Yep.
So how did the outfitters not benefit that?
Because the quality of the land makes the price go up of the land for the leases. They have to lease land, right?
Sure.
In order to take the number of people through that, to get enough money to make a business and pay the landowner, and actually make a profitable business in a small section of the year, they have to run so many hunters through that freaking land that even when they have a 140 or 150 class minimum, they're killing everyone that makes it to that size, and they're driving the deer off of that property. So when you put those leases in there in that many areas, yeah, you're damaging it. When you have that many hunters, because now you got that equation part that I was saying, the hunters. If you don't believe that's true, look at Western Illinois. Western Illinois used to be the destination.
Yeah.
If you go back 20 years ago.
Yeah, we just talked about that a couple episodes ago.
Yeah. And what happened? Outfitters and leases.
Yeah. That's
They
true.
ruined it. They ruined the hunting. So Buffalo County isn't better because of outfitters. Outfitters might draw attention to it, but the best areas of Buffalo County are the areas where rich guys lease a giant chunk, and there's 1 or 2 guys on there, him and his kid.
Right.
Like
So-
there's people that fly in from other states. There's one guy has 800 acres, has an airstrip in Buffalo County where he can land his jet, where he can stay at his cabin he built there, just to hunt. There's rich politicians, everybody in the world that wants to be a great hunter. That's where they go.
Right. You can watch all sorts of your TV hunting shows out there, and time again, you will see. They might not actually say it during the show, but at the end of the episode or whatever, you'll see the little plug for that outfitter, and time again, you'll see Buffalo County, Wisconsin.
Right.
And that is a big one for sure.
But that's what it is. It's the number of hunters. You got to have some genetics, maybe, but you grow big bucks anywheres. It's just a matter of getting the age. Because to me, the genetics is just if you're looking for score, right? Then you got to have symmetrical, perfect rags, blah blah blah. But
Right.
But for me, as long as the deer can get mature, so that's with the number of hunters per acre, right? How many deer can be there, and then controlling what gets shot by the numbers of people, and or by limiting the number of kill. So I don't think what they're doing in Michigan will hurt in any way. I think it'll help, and I do think that.
Yeah.
Like I could see a little apprehension on your end, like in Wisconsin, if we took away one tag, then I'm sitting there, gun season, I've already filled my tag. What am I going to do? How am I going to hunt? But I guarantee you'd start.
Not me. I don't care.
Oh, okay. It sounded like that with what you're saying before.
No.
So what I'm going to say is that if they took away one deer, the people that are thinking in that manner, how often do you shoot both deer if you're holding out for big bucks?
Right. Exactly. And that's why I'm saying I end up not.
Say that, well, I'm a meat hunter and I should be able to shoot 2 bucks because I'm a meat hunter.
Shoot a doe.
Shoot a buck and a doe, but don't shoot 20 does. You know what I mean? Balance it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, that's the long-standing argument there with meat hunters, and by all means, there's not absolutely nothing wrong with that or whatever. But then shoot does. I mean, and quite honestly, in a lot of areas, there's not enough does being taken.
Yeah. Meat hunting is just kind of a goofy statement, anyways, because, I mean, those people are people that hunt and they get the thrill out of hunting. They get the thrill out of shooting a deer. And they just want to be able to shoot deer. And that's an excuse. Because that deer costs them a hell of a lot more than beef costs them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Time-wise, they can go and pick up roadkills. I see roadkills every day, and they're plenty fine, good meat. So if you're really starving to death and you need it for meat, there you go. Just be honest is what I'm saying. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong. I'm just saying they're being dishonest if they're saying that they have to do that to feed their family or something. That's not.
Doing what? Doing what specifically? If they have to like shoot deer to feed their
It's not
family?
even cost effective.
Well, no, it's not. But some people just prefer venison over beef.
Sure.
Knowing that
I'm
it's a
with that.
wild animal.
What I'm saying is to say that you're a meat hunter because you have to do that or whatever is. I mean, you can go pick up.
Oh, yeah.
If it's just for meat because you prefer venison, again, I mean, there's a roadkill sitting in front of my house here. Anybody wants it? Nobody's picking it up. There's a lot of meat hunters
It
around
was
here.
80 degrees today, Dan.
Well, it's already cooked.
It's a hard pass for me, man.
Hey,
Look,
smell
I like
good.
venison. I like filling my freezer with venison. I like the idea of taking an animal and being able to provide for my family. But it's just the idea, right? At the end of the day, I can go and buy a side of beef or a half a cow or whatever. You know what I mean?
I do plenty good on venison with a couple of does a year, and
Yeah.
And if I get a buck, it's a bonus.
Right.
And that's me. I mean, I would rather shoot mature animals personally, even if it's a doe. I don't want to shoot fawns and stuff. I kind of
Exactly.
like the animals, and I kind of feel sorry for them. I don't really like killing. I think I did when I was younger. I like killing, and I look forward to it. There's things that change in you as you age, and you might
100%.
not think so, but when you get to my age, you'll think a little differently. I just don't like killing as much anymore. So when I take something, it's for certain reasons, basically.
I'm closing in on 50, and I know you're just a couple ticks above me. But that set in for me actually quite a few years ago already. I would say in my early 40s. My thought process changed in terms of just that thrill of killing. I went through those years of like, oh yeah, I'll shoot 3 does, a couple bucks. I prided myself on killing 4 or 5 deer, sometimes 6 deer a year. And that has changed immensely over the last decade for me, 100%. I enjoyed being out there, watching deer, passing deer, and shooting the bucks that I want to shoot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The thrill of killing, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I shoot a doe, a nice mature doe, like that, there's still a thrill there in that, but it's not the thrill of the kill. It's just the thrill of the hunt and knowing that I'm throwing some meat in the freezer. But by and far, like, it's not what it used to be, where it was like about a numbers game almost.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We got some comments here. Let's see what we got
Questions?
here. Yeah, let's take a look here, because you guys have to understand sometimes if I'm trying to focus on the conversation, it's hard to always follow along here.
I've been trying to get a moderator for this forever. I'm gonna have to pick somebody out pretty soon.
Yeah, but a moderator isn't going to be able to
You
necessarily.
can help a little bit with stuff like that.
All right, so Teddy Pace says, same thing has happened in southern Ohio. Outfitters have leased all the ground and made lease prices skyrocket and impossible to find
Yeah.
permission door knocking. I think that's a regional thing. I think by and far you're right, but at the same time, I think there is a place out there yet for door knocking and finding permission. It's not what it used to be, and I think anybody that says otherwise is fooling themselves. But I think there's a number of people out there that would agree that permission door knocking is still a viable option. What's that?
Good luck where I'm at.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, you hear I talk to guys, and I have guys on the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Show. When they go out west, they don't really have much difficulty finding permission. Yeah, here in Wisconsin, maybe in the Midwest, it might be a little bit tougher. But even in the Dakotas, I'm hearing from guys that don't really have an issue getting permission to hunt properties.
I don't get it because now even here now, even where I live here, which it didn't used to be a thing, there's people
Right.
going door to door looking for leases.
Right.
Because now there's guys that are making businesses out. There's several people in the area that have made a business out of leasing land. So why would somebody give me permission when they don't know me if they can give permission to this company and they can set up a set of rules and make $5,000? Why would they just let me on their land? One of the biggest problems we have as hunters right now is that like in Wisconsin and other places, they're selling off our public land without our permission. And people will not take that seriously. I can bring it up. I can say, hey, let's go down into the DNR meeting and do something about this. And I get 0 responses. Nobody wants to go. They're going to bitch about the land being less. But literally, I've watched Jefferson County shrink. Do you remember when we had an episode, I don't know if it was you or Josh, but it was a while back. Me and Eric went and scouted a property that's in town here, and we were planning on going there and hunting it. It was right in the town of Sullivan, a big swamp. Had a really nice parking lot. Bike trail was the access. And everybody around here that was serious about hunting knew about that property and hunted it. At least some people.
We talked about that on the show, yeah.
Okay, so that property got sold. I bitched about that. Nobody really wanted to do anything, but it did catch the attention of the DNR. And they got a hold of me and they said, Dan, listen, we're using that money to buy a bigger property. I said, you still didn't ask permission to sell it. It's my property. You didn't ask me. You need to notify the public and ask, at least in the area of the property, if you can sell it. You can't just sell our property. And they said, well, we do have the right to do that, and we're using it to buy this bigger property. Trust me, you'll like this bigger property way better. That had a long walk in, it had this, it had that. This property is going to be so much better.
Easier access.
That was a ploy to shut me up, because no property was ever bought.
Do you know Dan Infault?
2 years ago, it was never bought. They did that to shut me up. They just took the money. They sold the property, took the money. There is no new property.
There is no new property.
Right. And I've lost several properties in this area. They'll say, oh, it's because of the size, it's because of the location, it's whatever. We can't put hiking trails and picnic tables out there.
Yeah. Right. Isn't that always the case too? Yeah. Like it's not about like what's good for the hunters, whether it be turkey, pheasant, deer, whatever. It's about what's good for the general public to have access and that we can put walking paths.
Yeah.
BS.
And when was the last time you saw them do anything to any public property in Wisconsin to add deer habitat?
Right. No, phaseant habitat, sure.
Habitat away, but I've never seen
Chinese bird.
Habitat. Right. Chinese invasive species.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
The trouble with it is they got money coming in like crazy from Pheasants Forever. And Pheasants Forever will pay them money to do restoration projects, which what restoration means? It means mow down all the deer territory and make pheasant habitat.
Right, yeah. Bedding for pheasants, yep.
Right.
it's not that there's anything wrong with pheasant hunting or whatever. I think there's room for all, right? But it's who has the money to push, or who's padding pockets and pushing agendas is kind of the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Yeah, but the trouble is the squeaky wheel. It's not the money wheel, but it kind of is because of the amount of money and tags we buy. Is the deer hunters, but they're not listening to us.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
the
the
thing.
majority of the hunters in Wisconsin are deer hunters, and when you
By and
bring
far, yes.
you can talk to one of their biologists and watch their eyes roll. I mean, I had a biologist just snap at me one time and say, you know, you deer hunters think you own the woods. You think you should control us and stuff. You know, hikers and pheasant hunters and stuff, they have you know, rights too. Yeah, they do. All of us do. It should be by vote by the majority of people.
Right.
Our land. We should have a say what happens on our land. Everybody should. Even if you're an anti-hunter and you hate killing animals, you should have a say on what happens on that land. Everybody by collective voice should have a say. It should be by vote.
I agree. Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer.
I don't even think the DNR should be ran by the governor. I think that's stupid. It should be a voted in person. We, the people, should vote in the person so we can hold them accountable.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of a state-by-state thing. And I
It
think
is.
we've talked about this
There
before.
are a couple states that do have that. We
Right.
do not. Not in this state, and not in most states, I believe.
Here in Wisconsin, the governor
Literally-
can appoint his neighbor.
Yeah, literally,
His
when they
drinking
sold that
buddy.
property in town here, one of the ones they sold, when they sold that property, I don't know where the money went. Do you know where the money went? I don't think they're disclosing that. And literally, it's the governor's money. If he wants to buy his kid a new car or whatever, it's his. I don't like that.
I don't think anybody does.
No, there's somebody that likes it. They sold it.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody does. I think collectively, those of us watching right now and listening and discussing this, yeah, we don't agree. But all right. I don't see any other new questions coming up here. Actually, well, here's one here. Bow Hunt for a Buck asks, do you guys pick mini morel mushrooms? I do not, only because I'm not very good at finding them. Nor do I actually really, I mean, if I find them, that's great. But I don't actively go out searching. What about you, Dan?
I have. Goes back to my childhood. I mean, it's how I grew up. So I go
Scary
out-
grass too.
Yeah. But I really, these days, I don't go out specifically looking for them very often. I mean, it's usually while I'm turkey hunting, while I'm scouting, I'm running into them.
Right.
You know, you can't walk past a patch of morel mushrooms and not take them home.
Exactly. Right. I think where we're at here in Southeast Wisconsin, a lot of guys that are into it, guys, gals, foragers, kind of know where they are, kind of know where the honey holes are.
Yeah.
And they're kind of on top of them before. You have to really kind of, I think you have to be in tune to that, outside of being lucky.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what it's been for me, is like I've gotten lucky a couple times. Otherwise, you're kind of up against those folks that really know what they're doing when it comes to foraging. So, but I think this was a good episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, we had some good questions. We covered a number of topics. Dan, what do you got going on this weekend? I know I'm going to be up turkey hunting. What do you got going on?
I don't know yet. I've got a lot of people hitting me up to go scout their properties. Maybe I'll do something like that.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, good luck with that if that's what you end up doing. This stormy weather, I don't know. How is it by you right now? It's thunder and lightning like crazy here.
And lightning, but it sounds like the rain stopped.
Yeah. But all right. We'll be back next week for another all new episode of the Beast Report. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. I did want to mention actually here, Dan, last week's episode was my 1 year anniversary doing the shows.
Nice.
We had Rick Labby on, and I didn't want to interject that, or I kind of forgot about it. Not that it was super important, but this last year has been a lot of fun. I appreciate all the positive feedback I've received from folks. You guys have been great. I love this community that Dan has created throughout the years, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. So thank you, Dan, for bringing me on. This has been a fun year, and I look forward to doing many more episodes.
Yeah, it's been fun having you.
Thanks. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, stay beastie.